Okay, welcome to a live stream of Nunchaku Intermediate. Hope you all are doing well. Send me a hello in the YouTube or Facebook. I'll be sure to read them off. Today we're doing an intermediate class on nunchucks. And I wanted to talk about this really quick. I haven't organized, I've been doing a lot of open forums lately, and today I actually have some information organized, so I think things are going to run a little bit smoother. But one thing I wanted to talk about with intermediate chucks is that once you get the basics down, it expands like a tree, and there's a lot of different ways that you can take intermediate nunchucks. So my goal with this class isn't necessarily you may not be able to do all of the tricks, and if you can't, do the move that's right below it. I'll try to give like a more basic version of that move for you to play with if you're not able to get any of these moves. We're going to kind of brush over a wide variety of different intermediate things I would consider intermediate and possibly even slightly advanced nunchuck tricks that you can use in your arsenal to add more variety and skills. Now, before we begin, I just wanted to say hello. I can't see who's joined, but I can see who's messaged. So want to say hello to Ariel and Hostile Graveyard. What's up? I know you're going through your older videos discussing the difference between combat and flow. Yeah, there's a huge difference between combat and flow. It's almost night and day to me. Because, I studied martial arts 13 years prior to studying flow arts, which I've only been doing 10 years, but I think I do flow arts a little bit more seriously since my livelihood depends on it. Also, real quick, I want to do a quick shout out to Flow Toys for making amazing LED chucks, and Dark Monk. They make these chucks and they make almost all my fire gear right now. So big shout out to them. They're sponsors of the channel. Always got to thank them. They're amazing. And before we start with intermediate chucks, I want to make sure everyone has their nunchucks in hand. And if you're a beginner, this may not be the class for you because I'm going to assume that you can do figure eight wrist rolls and beyond. So we're about at the level, you just passed figure eight wrist rolls, you're comfortably doing figure eights, you can do rips, you can do hand rolls, you might be able to do the wheel. So we're just past the beginning stages and we want to get a little bit more tricks involved. Before we begin, also, I wanted to talk, I wanted to cover one subject every time. I think that might be nice. Just a quick subject about spinning or flow, a different angle. And today I wanted to talk about timing. And I think a lot of times when people miss a move, it's actually just their release time. It's the timing of a move. And so it's something that's not talked about too often, but even with the wrist roll, depending on when you open your hand and close your hand is gonna be huge on how smooth the chuck runs. What usually happens is we don't talk about it because you just drill it until you get it in your muscle memory. But it's something that if you're aware of, you can train it a lot quicker than if you aren't. Either way, I usually say that with release times and your timing of your grips, it is something that comes in time, but if you're focused on it, if you're aware of it, let's say, for instance, you're doing a roll and it feels clunky, likely it's because you're releasing too early. And what's happening is the nunchuck, if you release a little too early, it has this jump, it has to move a lot further if it's to land in your hand at all. So if you're aware of this, you might be able to think, oh, well, if I'm focused on this and I realize that there's this jump, maybe I'll just try my release a little later. And if it fixes your problem, then you just solved something that might have taken a half hour of drills without you knowing exactly what you did. So next time you're training and you're stuck on a move, think about your release times if you have them. There's always some sort of timing issue that can be better. I feel like optimizing your timing on every move or spatial distance is huge, and it's almost infinite in how far you can take it. Once you nail the move, you'll notice when people first get moves, it looks different because while they understand the motion, they haven't mastered the fine details. And the people that really get involved and really get into it, they have it takes on a whole different life. So when you watch someone spin, also look at the control they have during their moves. Not just the techniques, but look at how they're controlling the transitions as well as just the timing of each move. And it's very easy to see who's put in their time and who hasn't. So just wanted to talk about that really quick. I'm gonna read off a few more things and then we're gonna begin. Hope you have your pair of nunchucks. Let me just read off a couple more of what's been on YouTube. Okay. So Ariel says, hello, fellow, and Hostile says, we're back. And he says that some of these need to be in a John Wick series, of which I totally agree. If anyone knows John Wick. Let's see. Graphics Man says, "What's up?" And Ike Flow. Sorry I missed your stream on Sunday. Only one so far. That's perfectly all right. We've got another one this Sunday. I've had some requests to do streams earlier. Let me know what you all think about earlier streams. Like, do you think 3 p.m. CST is a good one, or do you think that that's not? Let me know. One more thing. Hostile says, in my contention, there's one demonstrating weapon and prowess are just as impressive as those intended just for show. Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, I think there's a martial art where they just, and I don't know the name, maybe someone else does, where they just practice unsheathing their sword for years. They'll just unsheath their sword. So like the average person may not see the difference between someone that unsheaths their sword for the first year and the 5th year, but it's there. I mean, especially in a combat situation, it would definitely be there, but in a flow situation too, like there's just, it's that indescribable something. All right, now let's go ahead and begin with the intermediate class. I will check in about every 5-10 minutes or so. So if you have any questions on anything, be sure to just type me and stop me. Otherwise, enjoy the show. All right, to begin with, intermediate nunchucks. Ooh, that's low. Let's get that up a little bit. Intermediate nunchucks, again, you're going to be past this point right here. I'm assuming that you're past this point. And a matter of fact, I think this is a great place to start as figure 8 wrist rolls because everyone knows figure 8 wrist rolls is kind of the bread and butter of nunchucks. But what we want to practice on right now is accentuating it a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with figure 8 wrist roll extensions. I feel like this is a great start. And all an extension is you're taking the front part of a figure 8 wrist roll. So you see there's a front part of the figure 8 wrist roll. It's on the front, and then there's a wrist roll in the back. When it's in the front, we're going to work on extending our arm in a big circle this way. So what I want you to practice on, I guess I moved this a little too high. What I'd like you to practice on, to first start holding in a front grip, holding it down by your right side of your hip like this, and then you're just going to kind of extend your arm this way, right? Half moon like this. And then I want you to put yourself, it's almost like you're doing a rip. You're going to kind of do a front to back hand roll as you're lifting up. Now you won't be able to go so far out wide this way until you have more practice with it. So just kind of lift it up just a little bit. So a little bit. Don't go all the way out. Don't do a full circle this way because you won't have enough time to cover it. So just a little bit like this and do a front to back hand roll. Right? Let's do this. Let's do a front to back hand roll and then get our hand kind of close back to our hip. Once we get it back there, you're just going to do the back to front hand roll behind you. So front to back to front to back to front, and make a big wheel here, front to back to front. Big wheel. And then as you get more comfortable with this, extend your arm a little bit more left. And something you can do also is you can start the back to front before it gets all the way back there. So like if I do a big extension here, you can see that my hand is already turning over before, my wrist is already turning the chuck over before my hand gets behind me. That's perfectly okay too. Just keep in mind if you're doing more move in the front, you're gonna have to do less in the back, so you have to come down faster. So we have this big long one, and then it might be really quick in the back, like that. So again, we're going from the figure 8 wrist roll like this, and when you're starting, I just want you to just extend it just slightly and then pull it back. Extend it just slightly and pull it back. Just slightly, pull it back. So just slightly, and then pull it back. You can almost feel this motion. And if you've got that, see if you can practice with both hands, of course. This is one of those ones that you do want to practice with both hands. If you're comfortable with that, I'm just going to step this up just a hair. Do your extension like this, and then see if you can do a behind the back pass. So extension, roll, roll, and then behind the back pass, and then do the same thing with the other hand. Roll, roll, behind the back pass. Roll, roll. Now you notice that this, you have to kind of stop for a second, let this kind of fall forward before you do this extension, before you can do the extension. That's because we're going in opposite directions. Hands are moving in opposite directions. So like if you're doing double nunchucks, you would kind of be doing it this way. If it was going the same direction, you wouldn't have to stop, because we have to stop in order to change that direction and get it back in front of our hip. But go ahead and practice that for a couple minutes. And if you have any questions about this move, send me a message. So just keep in mind, The figure eight wrist roll extension is just extending your arm when it's in front of you, but it creates a different dynamic. So practice that a little bit. Let me know if you have any questions, and then, like I said, we'll come back. I'll come back out there in a minute or so. I just want to make sure you can get a little bit of training in. Yep. I'm going to check on something really quick too. I need to double check, make sure that my stream's coming through on Facebook. Awesome. Hey, so my Facebook is not showing me what people are typing, but people are typing. So I just wanted to say hi to David Domingo and Nathan Honecker. Welcome, welcome. I totally did not see that. It's not showing up on my little dashboard, which kind of stinks. All right, I'm gonna get back here. Again, I'm just gonna keep moving forward with the lessons unless you guys need me for anything. So, and if you do, definitely stop me because I want to see this. So as we're doing the extensions, the figure eight wrist roll extensions, there's a lot of really great things that can happen with that. Obviously, because it's just an extension of the figure eight, which is the bread and butter of nunchucks. Now, there's also another variation of the figure eight wrist roll extension, which is the opposite way, which isn't used as much. But I'm going to show you this way too, because it is kind of an important one to work on. This doesn't allow you to extend as much because technically as the forward one, it allows you to extend in the front. The backward ones would have to be behind you, but that's a bit of a stretch. But there's still a technique that comes from it, just kind of moving it along, but it's more along a line instead of a giant circle. So let me show you how that works. A reverse figure eight wrist roll obviously goes the opposite way. So front one is making downward circles. And then the reverse figure eight wrist roll, which I'm going to assume you know. If you don't know the reverse figure eight wrist roll, then just go ahead and work on reverse figure eights for this particular motion. What you're going to do is you're going to hold your hand by your hip, and you're going to do a front to back hand roll like this. Boom. Easy, right? But we're going to move it up in a line this way. So again, move it up in a line. And it's going to be a very awkward grip because the chuck is going to be like dragged down towards the top of your shoulder like this. You're actually going to do, it's almost like we're going to do a spin to the front. It's almost like a figure eight in reverse grip in the shoulder quadrant. Actually, it's not almost like it is this. This is the motion that we have to get. Although it's a lot easier because doing this, it's actually harder to sustain a reverse grip figure eight shoulder quadrant than it is just to get it to tuck one time and pull it over to the front. But that's what I'd like to see you try to do. If you can't do that motion again, you can start with just a, try a reverse figure eight if you can't do this. Like if you can't do the figure eight wrist roll, the reverse figure eight wrist roll. And then what I want to see you, even if you can't do the figure eight wrist roll, you can still get into this motion simply by pulling this up to your shoulder, allowing it to do one circle, and then pulling it in front of you. Kind of a weird grip. It's kind of a weird way to transition through, but that's exactly what happens. The way that it looks like is because my pinky finger leads and it's kind of in this inverse circle, I really have to think about kind of like this pull that happens. I'm leading it with my pinky finger like that. So it is giving a little bit of a sideways crank to get over to this side. I'll see if I can go a little bit slow so you can see it a little better. So whoosh, whoosh. Whoosh, whoosh. So in one fell swoop, it goes whoosh. Again, back, whoosh, front. Just like that. So front to back, wheel it around, back to front. This is a tricky one, and this is why I wanted to get you guys on this. So we can do the figure eight wrist roll extension, maybe do a number 3 bounce to get to the opposite side, and then see if you can get this grip right here. We're gonna make one circle behind the back, whoosh, and that to create that circle, we really give it a little bit of a twist with the pinky finger, whoosh, and that will bring it to the front. And one thing you want to, this is important too. As this is rotating, if you're holding your chuck at an angle like backwards, it's going to crash into the chuck so what you really want to focus is on making sure this tip does not get in the way of this nunchuck. So here, whoosh, and as we pull it forward, we're kind of dragging along this line, and it's going to be a back to front hand roll, and we're bringing it back down. So front to back, roll it through, back to front, roll it back. Whoosh, whoosh. there's all different there's a little variation you can do if you can already do this motion. This is like an old school technique, but another thing you can do is go do a back to front like this, but then pin it behind the back of your head like this, and then shove your head through, or shove your elbow through your head like this, and back to front. So this is like a different kind of an extension, and basically what we're doing here is when we're doing the back to front, we're not leading it to the shoulder, but we're actually trying to reach over to the other side, to the other shoulder. And the only way to get to that point is to kind of put the chuck, let it rest or stall behind your neck, and then push your elbow through your head, and then you can pull that forward. That's a little bit beyond intermediate, but that's still something that you can play with. For now, see if you can get this motion. The nice thing about this, again, is if you have both sides, then when you're doing rips, you can always go into these motions. For instance, if we rip this way, I can go straight into figure eight wrist roll extensions. And if I rip the other way, then, let's see here, how I just lost my train of thought. If you rip the other way, then you can pull into the other direction. So, because rips will always move your hand in both positions, you can easily get to both of those moves from a rip. So let's try it again here. So if my right hand is on top, where the top of my hand is on the, just struggling with words today. When my hand is on top and I do the rip, it takes me straight into extensions the easier way, the forward way. But if my right hand's on bottom, then it pulls down to my hip, and then it becomes the reverse figure eight wrist rolls, which kind of are extensions. You can kind of push it forward this way, but it's not a very good circle. It's a little bit trickier to do. But getting that shoulder mechanism, that shoulder rotation is huge. So, all right, I'm gonna see if there's any question here. All right, going back to the front cam. Boom. Okay, I'm gonna read off some things. Keep practicing the reverse figure eight wrist roll. And I also wanna know how you guys are handling not getting your hair cut. Because for me, it's just like, I feel like I'm turning into a human chia pet. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to read off some things, but keep practicing the reverse figure eight wrist roll extensions in the front, but I just want to make sure that no one's stuck or lost right now. Let's see here. Oh, Dan Good's on. He says, this stuff is so mesmerizing, so cool. I have to make it to one of your performances and get things, once things get back up and running. That would be fantastic. No, we would love that. We would love that. Let me see. I'm just reading. Give me just a second. I kind of want what people are typing to appear on this screen, so that way it doesn't just show me like staring at the screen here. Keep working on those backwards figure eights, reverse figure eight wrist rolls. Earlier is good for me, 1 a.m. here, although I tend to sleep late, so I don't mind either way. Slido. And oh, there we go. And it's meant to behead the opponent in a single swipe. See? Learn something new every day. This is on the YouTube chat, by the way. I'm just reading about this really quick. Carolyn, hey, it's good. I haven't not heard from you in ages. I like watching these, but I tell you, I would kill myself in nunchucks, even the Nerf ones. Well, you gotta start somewhere. Hustle Graveyard, you have Kyudo archery from horseback. Sweet. I am bold, but I got a machine to get some style. Hey, I'm glad you guys all joined me. I'm gonna get back to it. I was just double checking, make sure no one's stuck on these. I have an open forum on Sunday where I'll be a lot more responsive to comments. Today, I just wanna make sure that we get a nice stream of techniques in so you guys have a lot to work with. So I will be right back here. Let's go ahead and get this. Okay, so we've got the reverse figure eight wrist rolls and the wrist rolls here, right? Now, there's also another kind of wrist roll that extends that is one of my favorites, and it kind of builds off of the figure eight wrist roll extension without being the reverse. And that's that our arm moves in a line, but our body moves with it. Now it's more of a turning motion. So instead of the hand rotating to the back and doing the back to front hand roll, we're moving with it, and the back to front hand roll happens as we're turning to face it. So here's how this one works. We're over like this. And instead of making right now the front to back hand roll is happening on this moon. So if I were to draw a half circle, it'd be here and here. I should have loaded up my interactive stuff, but I didn't have it today. Now instead of going on this horizontal, we're making like a horizontal half moon. This time we're gonna make a vertical half moon. So we're now thinking left to right, or right to left. So it'll be here, and then we take a step as soon as we're at 9 o'clock here. So hold the chucks in your right hand. Get ready to sweep it across. Use your right foot to step across and do a front to back hand roll this way. Now once you're here, you've got this motion. I'm going to stand over here for a second. So pretend that I started here, whoosh. Now what's going to happen from here is you're going to make a back to front hand roll across this moon over here. So if you need to practice, stand in a back grip like this and see if you can just do this motion. So back to front and open your arms like that. It's very much like a back to front hand roll standard, except you have to give it a little bit more space because your hand is moving in space. It's going to slide around a little bit easier. So make sure that you really just practice this and see if you can feel out how it needs to go. It does a little bit of a stall as the hand roll happens. So really just kind of go nice and easy and feel it out like this. So the finish of this move is the moment it reaches to the side again. So from the right to the left, you're going to take a step again and you should be back to where you started. So in faster motion, it'll be step with the hand roll, step with the hand roll. Or you could just keep it going too. You could go step with your hand roll. And if you did a reverse step here, you would move in a line. And a reverse step is simply use your other foot, but you're going to have to back step. So we'll go over the first one again. I'm going to use my right foot. We're holding this down. We're going to come across a half moon. Right hand, front to back hand roll, step. And then we're going to cover the half moon up here, back to front hand roll, step. And then we're done. Or, again, that's where we're doing the back step. Or we can just use the same foot where it's just we're kind of staying more in motion. We won't walk in a line, but we don't have to think so much. Basically, in that motion, the foot that's pivoting never ever moves. And the foot that's the foot that's stationary never moves, and the foot that's pivoting moves twice, like that. So try it again here. Whoosh, whoosh. Nice thing is, once you get that, you probably already saw that, but you can just go straight into your extensions after that too. So you're extending already. You can go straight into it the moment that you clear the hip here, and you go right back to it. And yes, there's also a reverse version. I don't think we're going to get into the reverse today, just because I want to cover some extra moves, but I thought that would be kind of a fun one to work on. So practice these extensions. Again, I'm going to do it one more time, and then I'm going to see if there's any questions. Please keep in mind I will read all comments, but I may not comment on all of them just because I want to keep the lesson going. But in the open forum on Sunday at 5 p.m., I will answer all questions and be very, very, very responsive. Okay. Front to back for this half moon, front to back from here to here. Take a step while you do it. And then back to front from this half moon, take a step while you do it. How you want to take that step is, I don't mind either way. Just as long as you're able to keep that motion going. And then once you're done with that, just follow it with figure eight wrist rolls or figure eight wrist roll extensions. So. Give it a shot. Let me know if you have any questions about this move. All right, I'm gonna read through, but please keep practicing while I'm reading through this, unless you have a question, of course. And just want to make sure I don't have any questions here. Let's see. Hostel Graveyard Ken. I've been cutting my own hair and just letting my beard grow. That's awesome. I'm just getting a Chia Pet head. Thuck Dat Nguyen says, in the real world, you would strike a deadly stroke and run away. That's absolutely true. This class is not a combat class. This one is going to be for showmanship, performance, action movies. Please excuse me, I don't mean to butcher this, but Simiao in Pedro Network Channel says, you're a top teacher. Got talent to explain. Thank you. Uzi OOUZII says, my left arm is challenged at reverse roll. And that's with a lot of people, to be honest. If your hand is challenged and you're having problems, the best advice I can give you is to drill it. Just go for it. Like anytime you see a little bit of a weakness, go for it. I'll be right back here. I'll show you here. Let's go ahead and get into that, and then I'll teach the next one. So anytime you find that you need to learn something but it's weak in that area, the best thing I could recommend, and you've probably heard me say this before, is to watch a movie, watch a show. Like say you can't get the figure 8 wrist roll extension with your left hand and it drops and it flops. Watch a movie, put your attention somewhere else, and just train your muscle memory to get used to that feeling. Because most of the time, especially when you're learning a new skill, if your muscles have never done something before, it needs time to kind of wake up. So watch a movie, watch a show, and just keep practicing it. Oh man, I messed up. Don't think about it. Just keep watching your show, and then in about 2 hours or so, you know, when the movie's over, then give it a lot of focus, and I guarantee that it'll be a lot easier to do. So what I'm trying to say is just work on building the muscle memory first before you work really hard on the minute details, and you'll find you may find that you advance a lot faster that way. It's a lot less frustrating too. All right, so next up, what we're going to go into is we have figure 8 wrist rolls, extensions. Oops, can't believe I dropped that. Figure 8 wrist roll extensions, and then we also did the reverse version here, right? I like the reverse because you can kind of like pull around and do like all different kinds of crazy stuff with it. All right. So the reverse version, if you understand quadrants, if you guys have worked through quadrants, the reverse version is very much set up for nice quadrant work, FYI. And then we also were working on figure 8 wrist rolls with turns. That's all I'm going to work on with that. When I'm talking about like intermediate nunchucks, how I say that, like you could keep going with that. We could do a whole class on different types of wrist rolls and horizontals and verticals and throws. But I want to kind of give you, like I want to capture a lot of different elements. So the next thing we're going to work on is actually something, it's kind of a newer trick, so I'm probably going to drop it a couple times. It's a newer trick that I've been working on, which is kind of like a pinch grip that becomes something that I believe Poi people would call a gunslinger. But I learned this really cool combo with it, and I would consider it to be somewhat intermediate. Maybe a little bit, I don't know. I think it might be a little bit above intermediate, but maybe not. It depends on who you are. But let's go ahead and practice this anyways. The prerequisites for this one is to be able to do the horizontal pointer finger roll. So the horizontal pointer finger roll, if you can't do that, let's work on that one first. I'm going to first guide you to do the horizontal pointer finger roll. If you don't know how to do that, just practice that and then come to this later when you start seeing the others. So horizontal pointer finger roll is we're bouncing it off the triceps back and forth here, or the delts, whatever you want to call it. When your right hand is on the same side, you're going to open your finger and you're going to let the rope wrap around your finger one time. Wrap around like this. Now the trick to this move is when it starts to wrap, you open your hand and the chuck's supposed to roll around. But if you put no force at all onto the bottom part, all that's going to happen is you're going to open it up and it's going to wrap around and get stuck. So what you have to think about is right before the roll happens, you give it a flick. And the reason why you flick that is because this needs to be set in motion. If you don't set the bottom one in motion, you're just going to get stuck. But if you do, it's going to flick. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're just going to see if you can get it to roll on your finger. Don't worry about catching it. Just see if you can just grab it and spin it on one finger like this. So see if you can just feel it going across your finger. Nice sharp snap right at the end. It's going to be in front of the rope too. So as this is spinning and this is rebounding, fingers extending, and it's coming across the front of the finger. It's wrapping across. But the flick should set the back part in motion so it keeps rolling this way. If you don't give it a hard enough flick, it's just going to lose, it's just going to look dead. It's going to be like a dead fish in the water. But if you can flick it, it'll just want to keep rolling. What you do is once you're rolling it and you start to think that you're around close to the end, you stick out your thumb like this. And what you're going to do is you're going to enter something called a pencil grip. So first practice this. And the moment I feel something that's kind of rigid, I'll lift up my thumb and grab it into something called a pencil grip. It traps it. So the moment my pointer finger feels something besides rope, then I trap it with my thumb and I grab it and I'll be in this type of grip like this. See if you can practice that. So roll it, catch it, grab it. Nice little pencil grip. I'll do it a couple times kind of up close. I'll go as slow as I can, but it's really hard. The slower you go, the harder a finger roll is. especially horizontal, like that. Okay, so I decided that this combination might not be intermediate after all. Because that's probably the intermediate move is the digit roll. But let's just go with that anyways. If you can do the horizontal digit roll, I'm just going to show you one more trick to this. We won't get into the full shebang. I'll just go one level up. And the next level of that is the ability to do almost a chain unwinder, but with 2 fingers. That's the thing that I learned. I'm not sure what we're going to call it yet. I think I'm going to call it a pinch grip because it's a new kind of grip. And while people will call it like, I mean, you can call it a gunslinger, but what's happening essentially is the same thing that we're doing with the chain unwinder. Hands are closed, hands are open. This one, fingers are closed, fingers are open. And the reason why we need it to be open is because we need to be able to clear it. So what happens basically when we're doing this motion is the moment it spins on your finger, you get 1 revolution and you pinch it with your thumb like this. So here, pinch it with your thumb. The grip looks like this, which is kind of awkward, right? But what you're going to do is you're going to use your fingers to control this motion. So if we just grabbed it right now, it would stop, obviously. So we need to figure out how to keep this thing in motion. So let me see here. I probably should have worked on how to teach this before I showed you guys this. So the trick is you're going to pinch it and you're going to twist your wrist down. It's very much like a horizontal figure 8 wrist roll. The more I think about teaching this, the more I think this is not an intermediate move. But that's okay. So you're going to pinch it with your 2 fingers and you're going to twist it down, right? This is when it's closed, this is when it's down. And then as it starts to twist up, you open your fingers and close as it goes down, open as it goes up. And if you do it, you should be able to have great control over this motion. Like that. Closed, open, closed, open, closed, open. And if you get used to that, it should give you a lot of control. So eventually what you can do is just, when your hand's open, you just lift it up and it becomes a throw. So it takes a little bit of practice, but it just turns it straight into a throw, straight from there. Like that. And that's the trick to that move. If you're following my Instagram, that's the trick to it. So to start with, the intermediate move is going to be the finger roll right here. Some of you guys already know how to do a finger roll. And if you can, then let's work on this new grip, this new pinch grip or gunslinger or whatever you want to call it, where you're just kind of twisting around with it. It's a figure 8 that's clasping in as it's down and opening up when it's up. It's not easy to do. It takes a little bit of practice. But once you get it, it feels really nice. And like I said, it opens up for a lot of moves. One of the biggest problems you might have is hitting your elbow. So you really want to lift up and move your elbow up and down and out of the way. So if you're hitting your arm or your elbows in wrong position, you're almost always going to hit the inside of your bicep. All right, I'm going to see if there's any questions. Practice all that I've shown, grasshoppers. All right, I'm going to see if there's any questions here. I still want to catch up, but keep practicing closed when it's down, open when it's up, or if you haven't gotten that far, just holding the finger up and letting it roll and then catching it with the pencil grip. All right, let me just see. I'm just double checking, making sure there's no questions here. Do staff moves help you in nunchuck flow? Absolutely. The more you learn about other props and understand their relationship to each other, the more you realize all props, I don't want to say are the same because they're not, but they're all interconnected and related. So the more props that I've learned makes it easier for me to pick up any random weapon or random prop and be able to flow with it because they're like cousins. They're like cousins to one another. It's pretty cool, actually. All right, let's see if there's any questions. It looks like it's like a 2-finger roll. Yeah, it's kind of like a 2-finger roll mixed with the chain unwinder. The idea of the hand opening and closing to create the force is something that I took off the chain unwinder, but it makes it more consistent than if you just took your finger and rolled it up and down with one finger. Having that second one gives you control over both sides, which allows you to keep the torque up. You can do it with one finger, but I find that the results are more erratic, less controlled. I just think it's better to add that extra finger. All right. Fantastic here. Oh, Steven says, you are so wonderful. Thank you for doing this. You're the best teacher. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Like, this just makes me happy. As long as I know that you guys are getting something out of it, then it makes me happy. It makes me feel like I'm making it worthwhile, especially since we're all inside anyways. What else do we have to do? Let's spin some nunchucks, right? All right, so that was the one I wanted to show you for hand rolls at least, or for digit rolls. So in terms of hand rolls, we got the extension. In terms of finger rolls, we got the horizontal pointer finger roll, or if you want, we've got the gunslinger. And then let's go ahead and keep going here. Let's do some throws now. Okay, I'm gonna assume you can do a front-to-front hand roll. Front-to-front hand roll is one of the prerequisites for being an intermediate. It's the last of the 4 hand rolls that I would actually consider to be an intermediate move, but we're gonna work off that into a front-to-front hand roll rotor throw. I find that this is a really catchy one to do. It can put a lot of spin on it, so be careful because it's already rotating so much, but there's a lot of fun things you can do with this. So the idea of this is actually not too hard if you understand how to do the rotor pass and the front-to-front hand roll, but I wanted to point that out. Front-to-front hand roll, rotor pass, throw. Because I feel like this is one of those moves where like when you're really into like emotion, when you're into your flow, it's one of those things that I feel like rolls really easily. So let's just go ahead and just work on this really quick. I'm gonna assume you know the front-to-front hand roll, whoosh, here to here. The idea is you're really trying to focus on when you try to combine these two together, it moves very fast because the moment this happens, it's literally not even a full circle swing before you're going into the rotor throw. So if you need to practice nice and slow and practice this transition straight out of front to front, you should have the control to just do a half spin to pull it straight into this position and then rip it out. So that's kind of the big take that I get from there that I wanted to show you. In order to pull this off, you've got to be able to make this transition here. The moment the front to front ends, have your hand ready to go and make sure you have the control of your front to front enough to where it can just land nice and easily in your hand. And then the rotor pass, of course, is much easier than the front to front. So if you already know the rotor pass, it's as simple as ripping it up, lifting, letting your hand face the sky. So ripping it, twisting your hand 180 degrees, opening your palm and lifting it straight up. Here to lift. Roll, lift. So that is the front to front rotor pass throw. Oops. The trick to this is the more you twist it sideways, the faster the rotation goes. The more you lift it up, the slower it goes, but the higher it goes. So we can get a nice height if we lift, or if we give it a nice twist, it's gonna rotate very fast. So you wanna kind of control the lift and the twist to make the kind of spin that you wanna have. The next thing I wanna show you is going to be the helicopter throw. The helicopter throw is when we're doing over the shoulder passes, and we launch it. I just hit my ceiling. It's a launcher, that's what I love about it. And it's a diagonal launching mechanism that allows it to fly way up in the air. I guess, actually, you know what, scratch that. Let's do a different throw. I had that written down, but I just realized most of you guys probably don't have big enough ceilings for that. Let's go ahead and just do the behind the back 360. So we're gonna do this one. This is done in 4 steps, and it's actually almost as hard as the front to front throw. It's actually not much harder than this. It just requires a little bit more body work to get there. So, step 1, first we're gonna hold it in our hand, we're gonna rotate it counterclockwise. Step 1 is we're gonna take a step to put our back towards the camera, or towards the wall. Now the trick to this move is this must always face the same direction. It never changes. So if you swing it over to the other side, you're doing it wrong. Make sure that this is always in front of you. Even when I'm standing here, it's in front. And as I pass it, it's still staying in front. It doesn't ever cross behind me from this stance. Here we go. So right hand, we're spinning it counterclockwise. Take a step, 180 degrees, so my back is turned. And then what we're gonna do is, it's very similar to the pinwheel pass. So it's gonna be something like this where we're doing this pass, but we're just gonna basically tuck our arm back and we're just gonna let the nunchuck bounce off the back of the bicep. So standing here, counterclockwise, step, pull the left arm back, and then you're just gonna swing this up, and you're gonna let this kind of bounce off the back of your bicep. This is a checking mechanism. This checks to make sure that your nunchuck's actually going straight. Because if you're not hitting your shoulder or your bicep, if it's hitting the bottom of your arm, or if it's missing completely, then when you launch it, it's going to fly behind you. So this, if you imagine that this is actually kind of like if you've ever shot a gun, you might be able to see the sights, you know, you're lighting them up. It's kind of the same thing. This is like your sight. And you try to make sure that your nunchuck is nice and straight through there. So, 1, 2, and just bounce it for a second. Let it either bounce around your bicep or your shoulder. It's okay. Either one works. And then the next part to this, first see if you can get this to bounce. If you can't get it to bounce, obviously, then you wanna stay on that one. Once you get it to that point though, you don't actually want it to bounce off your shoulder, but you want the angle to where it would hit your shoulder if you didn't release it. Because the actual motion is you're gonna let go of it before it hits your shoulder, but you're gonna get your aim from bouncing it off there. So here, and as this is going up now, the trick to this move is you're gonna start feeling the moment the chuck passes the horizontal line and it starts to move up vertically, that's when you're gonna give it a little bit of a twist. It's another flick, and it's a little bit of an upward lift. So when I'm back here, I'm throwing it, I'm really thinking about twisting my wrist, almost like I'm opening a door, but it's behind my back. So here, what should happen is, if you let it go, it should generally fall in front of you. If it flies far away in either direction, then your planes are a little bit off, or you threw it too hard. So we're here, we're swinging it back, and remember my hand, let me get a little close, my hand looks like this. So if I'm swinging it, it's really like twisting upward like that. It's really trying to just, like if I was standing still and it was in front of me, it's really just flicking it up like that. That's really all we're trying to do, is just flick it straight up. And that's what we're trying to do here. Here, here. Should land right in front of us. We haven't worked on the catch yet, but you can obviously see where this goes. Here we go. Here's 1, 2, here comes the throw, 3, and then as soon as you do the throw, turn and see if you can grab it. 1, 2, 3, turn, grab, 4. The turn and grab can be a little bit tricky because if you don't throw it high enough, then you won't have enough time to turn and grab it. So and that's gonna be based on how good you can flick that wrist. So keep that in mind. If you're not high enough, you didn't flick your wrist hard enough. If it's going off at an angle, either your planes are off or you released a little bit too early, so it's shot sideways instead of straight up and down. Let me know if you have any questions. We might just do one more throw, and then I think we're gonna get into some anti-spins. I'm gonna see if we can get into some of those. I'm gonna go ahead and see if there's any questions about any of these moves. Let's see. Looks like it's, yeah, great. All right. Sorry about this delay. All right, always want to double check and make sure that there isn't anything we're missing. You know, the crazy thing about nunchucks is there's so many moves. It's ridiculous. And for me, it's hard to tell what's easy and what's hard until I actually have a person in front of me, because some people can do some of these moves really easily and other people struggle pretty hard with it. The next throw I'm going to show, and again, this is like a smorgasbord of intermediate and some advanced moves for you today. So don't think that this lesson is the proper way to navigate through it. The proper way would probably be to focus on one specific lesson and do that the whole hour. But for me, I want to give you like a shotgun of techniques and ideas. So after this live stream, you can either go online and look for further advancements of it, or you can work it on your own. What I'm doing is I'm showing you all the different, like there's so many different avenues you could take it. So I'm showing you some of these options. This next one will be the last throw that we'll work on, and it's going to be a redirect under the leg. It'll look something like this. And this one is actually, I call it a push-through throw. A push-through throw is any time the nunchuck stops and you push through it in order to get it back in motion, whether it be the arm or the leg or wherever. We're just kind of working off the push-through throw, but to first start off with, if you're not sure how to do a push-through throw, let's just start it on the bicep and then we'll turn it into a leg throw eventually. So this is a bicep X catch, or a bicep catch, I'm sorry, this is the bicep X catch. This is a bicep catch. but we're not actually going to catch it there. We're just going to rest it on here, just so you can see the concept. All you're doing is you're pushing through the arm in order to create force. So the hand that's holding the chuck is pushing down and underneath, and that causes this chuck to generate some force. The more downward I push it, the more of a flick. Did you see how fast that chuck moved? And it's just because I'm grabbing the chuck here and I'm just kind of twisting it down. So if I just push through it, there's not going to be much force. But if I give it a little bit of a sharp snap, everything's like a little bit of snap. Everything with chucks is like this subtle snap. And if you just give it a little bit of a snap, you'll have this force that happens. So what happens is you push kind of downward, almost like more like a V shape, like you're coming down and diagonally. And then as soon as it starts to come forward with it, what you do is you wait for the chuck to almost hit your arm. And then when you let go, you give it a little bit of a backwards pull. And the reason why you give it a backwards pull is so it can return to you. Because if you don't give it a backwards pull, it's going to fly that direction. So the backwards pull happens, basically, if I don't have a chuck, it's like pushing through here, and then I start to see it swing upwards, and then I pull it back just a hair and open up my hand, and that'll cause the chuck to fly right back to my hand. Whoosh, push, see as it's going up, and I pull it backwards to catch. Right? Push through throw. You can do it with the bicep catch. So you're doing your bicep catch, and you can just kind of push through it. And then what was there was an extension one. That's a different technique, but that's a fun one too. So bicep catch, push through to where the chuck is going upwards. The moment it starts going up, pull it backwards, whoosh, and open your hand. Here, whoosh, catch. We're going to do the same concept, but we're going to do it with our leg now. I'm going to get a little bit closer so you can see this. Actually, I'll just lower this. So this time we're going to lift up our left leg, right hand, left leg. And I'm going to show you, first we're doing a pass to make this work. So I'm spinning the chuck clockwise, lifting up my leg, and then it's rotating under my leg. I'm pulling it under my leg, and it's resting on my leg. The top of the chuck is resting on the top of my leg right here, as you can see. So I'm passing this so the chuck can be on the opposite side of the chuck, can literally be on the top of my leg like this. Now what happens is the hand that's passing it lets go, and the other hand takes over exactly where the other hand was. So you're exchanging on the same side. It's the same side pass. So here, exchange hands, and this becomes a push-through throw. And this push-through throw happens, again, it's going down in a diagonal, which pushes it through the leg, and as it starts to come upwards, remember we give it a backward snap and a pull. In all one motion, it looks like this. Now what you can also see is me pushing through, I'm going to really have to get my hand through here before I give it that little upward flick. So keep that in mind, you are going through the leg before you let go. But I find this is just a great one, I just love it. I just really like that throw. I think it's really fun. So practice the push through throw. If you have problems, start with the bicep. If you got the bicep, try the leg. Try that little switch. And let me know if you have any questions about that too. All right, I just want to see if there's any questions. I am reading about the guerrilla warfare. I'm just making sure, and Tony Jaw, who is awesome. I just want to make sure that there's no questions about any of these techniques. Good. All right. Fantastic. All right, I don't see any questions, which is fantastic. Let's continue forward. So I think we should stop with throws now. So again, we worked on wrist roll variations, and then we worked on digit roll variations, right? And then we worked on throws. But what else can we do? Well, let's work on some patterns. Let's see if you can do the anti-spin. This is an anti-spin. And it's one of those ones, I think a lot of people struggle with the anti-spin, and unfortunately, I find that this is one of the more difficult moves to teach because it's a feeling thing. And anyone that spins in spin, it's very easy to spin the chucks when it's going the same direction as your arm. So right now my chucks are spinning counterclockwise, my arm is spinning counterclockwise, and this means that I'm never fighting the rotation of the chucks. which means is I can pretty much move my arm whenever I want to. I can move it however fast or slow as I want to, and the chucks will just kind of follow along. But if my arm swings the opposite as the chucks, there has to be a very certain kind of syncopation that needs to happen for this to work right. So we're going to go over, there's the general ones is a 3-point where I'm making a triangle, point here, point here, point here. And then there's also a 4-point, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Usually makes a square. We're going to work on the 3-point anti-spin today. I find that it looks better anyways. And what you're going to do is you're going to imagine in front of you there are 3 dots. We're going to say dot 1 is where you're, like by your, past your left hip. Dot 2 is around your face. And dot 3 is by your right hip. So hip, well, it's slightly above. Above the hip, left hip, face, right hip. We're going to start cross our body to begin with, and we're going to spin this thing counterclockwise. Now, the trick to this motion, until you can get it, it's going to feel really awkward, but the trick to this is to do it nice and slow to start, and it'll never feel like you got it until you do it all in one motion. But basically, you're waiting until the swing is about exactly opposite of where you need to go. That means if my direction needs to go up here to get to the next point, then the chuck will also be facing that direction. So if the chuck is facing here, then that's when I move it up. If the chuck is facing here, then I move it this direction. So as I'm spinning it here, the moment my chuck is here, I'm pulling it up that way. Like that. And then when the moment the chuck is here, I'm pulling it that way. So it's almost like it's leading the way backwards. So here we go. Get it nice and what you're going to do is you're going to let it do 3 spins to start with. 1, 2, 3, go. Whoosh. 1, 2, 3. Here, whoosh. And then when it's over here, it's got to go a straight line across. So you're going to do it right about here, right when it's straight across. And you're going to pull it that way. And it's down here, up. When the chuck is this direction, over. And then when the chuck is completely horizontal, pull it the same direction it needs to go. Just keep in mind I should say it's the exact opposite direction, but it should be almost parallel to where you're trying to head to. And in the end, as you do these, first it's going to feel really awkward and it's not going to think it makes any sense, but that's because the anti-spin has to be done without any extra spins. As you do it this way, it doesn't really look like it's doing anything. It only looks like it's doing something when it's one motion, like that. But the only way to get to that point first is to get these motions down. Get that in your muscle memory first. So you may not be able to get this today. This might be one of those ones that you have to pause and practice for a little bit. But do practice this. When it's on the opposite side, pull it there. When the chuck is the opposite side here, pull it down. And then when the chuck is over here, horizontally, pull it across. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. All right, and before we continue also, I just wanted to say thanks again, everyone. I used to be a full-time performer, and when COVID happened, I decided I would spend a lot more time teaching nunchucks, working on an encyclopedia chucks. I've gotten a lot of likes and a lot of interest in having all of my moves chronicled into a DVD, so I'm working on that. But if you like what you see, if you appreciate the videos, please think about a donation. PayPal.me/Flowtricks is a one-time donation. And then if you go to patreon.com/Flowtricks, that I have over 100 new exclusive videos. If you've never been on Patreon, I usually make a weekly video. Up until COVID, I was making weekly videos, and then I just wanted to make sure I just helped and shared my lessons with everyone. So I've been doing live streaming without any exclusive Patreons up until recent. But if you like what you see and you are able to help, this is how I make a living right now, so would really appreciate a donation. Either way, if you can't, I'm still glad you're here. I still think you should be spinning chucks, but if you are able to help, that would be fantastic. With that said, I'm going to continue forward. So we're back to our anti-spins. Again, whenever it's in the opposite motion, we pull it over, and we pull it over. There's another motion that helps with this. The best way I can think of it is you can kind of use your hand and stop it at the point where it needs to be. This is another way that can help you with anti-spins. So like if it needs to go up and to the right, use your hand to stop it where it needs to be, and then give it a little bit of a pull. So spin, okay, it needs to be here. That way you can kind of feel like where it's gonna be, and then pull it like that. I know it's gonna feel really rough and sloppy, but what we're basically trying to do is just kind of feel where the chuck needs to be and then pull it up. That may be another way that can help you figure out how to feel it through. Like a lot of people say, it's a feeling thing, and I do agree with that, because you kind of have to feel when the nunchuck's here. That's why it's a feeling thing. Once you feel it and you're able to move it, you can do it. But if you can't feel it, stop it with your hand and just try to imagine where the chuck was right before you caught it, because that's when you need to move it. So practice that for a little bit. I'm going to see if there's any questions. All right. Herbal medicine. Technician says, can you show us a tornado spin with the doubles? You know, this Sunday, I'll do I can work on some doubles for y'all. Right now, I just kind of wanted to keep it to single nunchucks, kind of keep it into an intermediate class. But please come by on Sunday, and I think 5 p.m. CST, and I'd be happy to talk over whatever doubles I can do and share it with you. Let's see. Ariel says, please show me how to do a rolling 2 fingers in front of the chest. Oh, yeah. You know, we could work on that, sure. That's kind of an intermediate move. Just want to see if there's any other ones here. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and work on that one. We'll take a break from the anti-spins for a second here. Okay. If you are working on anti-spins, keep working this out. Because here's the thing. As you're working this, you may need to spin the other direction. You got to go both ways. The cool thing about anti-spins, especially if you can do anti-spins in stalls, is you can do anti-spins to a stall, to a reverse anti-spin to a stall, and you can come up with these really cool patterns just simply, and if you weren't moving your arm in space, it would literally look like this, right? Not the most exciting thing. So what makes this exciting is putting your body in motion through space. Once it's moving, that's what really creates the dynamics. So really move your arm, really move your body into it. It really will help. The question that I just received was how to spin with rolling 2 fingers in front of the chest. I think it's talking about this motion here, where it's either that or we're talking about like the winder. Or we can do this one too. Let's go ahead and do that one. That one's more natural, I feel like. The middle finger to the pointer finger digit roll, that's a really nice combo, but I find that to be harder than the pointer finger to the thumb. So, and also this kind of goes off of what we were talking about earlier. So the prerequisite is being able to do that finger roll comfortably. People that are working on this move can also work on the thumb roll that follows. The cool thing about this is you're actually just gliding the motion from where it actually was. So if you remember right, you're doing this pointer finger roll and you catch it in a pencil grip, right? Well, the cool thing is the pencil grip is exactly where you need to be to get this thumb roll off. You just lift it off and you stick your thumb up and it rolls the opposite way. So once we get into this pencil grip here, you're gonna notice my thumb is in the back right here, which is the perfect setup, because now what we're gonna do is we're gonna twist it, we're gonna open up our thumb, and then it's gonna rotate across the thumb all the way back. So pointer finger across, we grab it here. You can also just practice from pencil grip, but you're gonna try, if you have to practice, it's a little bit tricky. It's gonna kind of like be flying towards your chest per se, and you're gonna stick your thumb out, and you're gonna see if you can get it to wind through. Keep in mind, if you just joined us, I see a couple people have joined us that came in. This is an intermediate nunchuck class, so it's a little bit harder than the basics. This is for people that are trying to get past. They already know the basics, the figure 8 wrist rolls and things of that nature, and they're trying to advance a little bit more. We're somewhat delving into the advanced motions too. So if you're not comfortable with that, just see if you can follow along and do what you can know, and you might be able to pick up a new technique or two. Let's go ahead and go back to here, pointer finger to thumb. Now, if you look at this really carefully, the moment I catch it with pencil grip, it shoots off. It only goes half a rotation. So the chuck, I don't hold this in pencil grip at all. You have to get really comfortable in the pencil grip in order to make this combination happen. Because the moment you grab it, it's twisting straight into that thumb roll. And the catch from the thumb roll from here is really quite nice, because the moment you pass the rope and you feel the chuck the solidness of the chuck, it's literally falling into your open hand. Because this is rolling, I'll show you here. It's literally falling into your open hand because it's like right here, and it's going to roll right there, right into your hand. So all you have to do is open up your fingers and grab it. Here. If you go too slow, it just bounces. I'm trying to get it nice and slow so you can see it. But there's definitely a speed factor that needs to be done. But I'm trying to make it as slow as possible so you can see it. Do it a couple times. Grabs it here. We flick it out this way. It rolls across the back, and it ends up here, and then we grab it. Fast motion's a lot easier than slow. And when you're trying it, go medium pace. If it's ever wobbling or starting to fall downward, you gotta go faster. But if you can't figure out where the nunchuck is, you gotta go slower. And again, one more time in slow motion, finger wraps across the top. Get it to pencil grip. The moment it's in pencil grip, you only have half rotation. You only have this rotation to get it across the thumb and then to grab it. One more thing I can teach you is when you're in here, you can actually grab the other chuck with your hand. When you're in pencil grip, you can grab it with your hand, stick your thumb up, and just roll it across so you can see how it feels. It's very similar, which is quite nice actually. So grab the other chuck with your hand. As this comes across, lift your thumb up, make everything else come down, and then just kind of roll the chuck around until you get until this rolls up to this point, because you're eventually going to clear all the rope, and then grab it. One more time. So you get to the pencil grip, just grab it here, roll it across. All right, you gotta get past. This chuck has to get past the arm, unfortunately, but you can at least kind of get the feel for how it goes if you pull it, if you assist per se. Okay, I'm gonna go back here really quick, see if there's any questions. Nice. Okay, no questions so far. Cool, you got it. Excellent. I'm happy to hear that. That's fantastic. So we had someone that was able to nail a move even before class was done. That's sick. All right, I'm gonna do a couple more things. I think we're gonna do a waist pass next. I think that's a good one. So we're gonna go into an intermediate pass. This pass is one of my favorites, and I rarely do it too, but this pass looks like this. And it drops on the ground. It's one of those ones you have to practice a bit. Let's try that again. There, did it twice in a row. It's legit. This is a trickier move to get. Again, we're kind of in the advanced territory. Just depends on how comfortable you are with the behind the back catch, but it looks great because you're passing a nunchuck behind your back, across your stomach, and you're catching it behind your back with the other hand. So it's a behind the back pass to a behind the back catch going in front of your body, which is pretty insane. I'm going to give you some tricks to nailing this move, and hopefully some of you guys might be able to get it. The first thing you want to do is make sure you have a long enough chuck. If you have a short chuck and it can't clear your waist, you won't be able to do this move. If you have a bigger belly, you might need to extend it upwards so it can kind of roll over the top of it, and then you might even have to twist your hip to reach it. So if your chuck is too small compared to your body, you can make it work, but you do have to do a little bit more compensation. And if it's too long, it's actually a lot easier. So that's great. If it's too short, that's usually the problem. So what's going to happen is you're going to grab it as far out as you can, almost like I need to come up with a grip name for this, but you're basically grabbing with your fingertips across the top, and you're swinging across your body in front of you to start. That way you can get a nice swing across your body, all the way across. Now the trick to this move is you're aiming it upwards because it has very little force because you're throwing it behind your body, and because it has very little force, it's going to fall downwards as it's crossing this motion here. So as you throw it up, it's just generally going to kind of come down just a little bit. So what you want to practice is how fast you swing it, and then how high do you need to aim it. It does diagonal up just a little bit. If you come straight across, usually it'll be just slightly too low for your other hand to reach. So first just practice seeing if you can get this whole bounce to come across, and it should bounce and hit you in the hip. So start across, have this long grip, swing it around, and see if it can bounce. Now you notice I'm mostly grabbing it here. You can grab it here, but the further up you go, the less length you have, the harder it gets. So the more length you can create, the better you are with this move. Here, swing it across, like I said, angle it up just a little bit. If you notice how this is angled up just a little, it's not straight across, it's like upwards. And that's going to give it a little bit more oomph, but as it's going to start to drift down because of gravity. So just a little bit is what you need. And then what you're going to do, just get this feel just for a few times. You're going to take your left hand and you're going to put it behind your back over here. Usually you don't have to do this right away. You can actually exchange it one for the other. Wait until the chuck is almost ready and you're going to reach behind and see if you can grab it. So, bam, here we go. Yeah, this is kind of a crazy move because your arms are crossed behind you. And see if you can just get it to, you don't have to catch it, but the thing is the moment your other hand reaches to the back, you may not have enough space to do a whole lot. So just see if you can let go. You don't have to catch it. Just see if your finger can at least touch it. So here, just kind of open it up and see if your hand even grabbed it. A lot of times the chuck actually ends here. I'll show you why you go higher, because a lot of times when you're passing it, the chuck doesn't actually reach to your hand, so it falls into it. It needs to fall into it. You're actually aiming higher than where your hand is at, so that way it'll fall into the hand in the back. It's a little bit tricky, I know, but I think some of y'all can get this one. It looks great. Oops. On this one, I actually like didn't open my grip far enough, and it got stuck on the silicone of that. So I need to open it up a little bit bigger. I need to open my hand a little bit bigger. That's what happened to me on that one. So open my hand a little bit bigger and grab. All right, let's see if there's any questions. It's a big move, but I like it. I think it looks cool. It's kind of tricky. Let's see here. I got it. Sick. Okay. Does the finger roll work with chain or is it better with rope? It totally works with chain. I used to do it all the time with chain, but it is easier with rope just because it doesn't grind or slip as much. Ariel, thank you, Ken. Hey, you're most welcome. Uzi, it works with chain. That's what I'm working with. Cool, thanks. Thought of some decent tricks for a future staff broadcast. Neo and the pole scene from The Matrix. Yeah. Ball and socket grip. I like that. Yeah. That sounds great. Let's call it a ball and socket grip because, yeah, that's kind of what it resembles. I like it. All right. I'm going to double check, see if there's any more questions. I'm going to get back to this. And let's go ahead and do one more. I'm going to do one more pass. This is another one of my favorites, which is why I like it. It's the second variation to the behind the neck pass. I consider this to be an intermediate. This is more comfortably intermediate than the waist pass for sure. I think it's a little bit easier to do, but still takes a little bit of practice. So you should know how to do a behind the neck pass, like so. It comes from an over the shoulder pass. The moment your right hand swings up to your right shoulder like this, you check with your left hand. It's kind of by your cheek so you don't smash your face. You swing a very clean line across and you grab it and you let go. That's the first phase. The second one is you can do a second variation of this. And what's going to happen is it's no longer crossed. Your arms are no longer crossed on this one. Left hand swings straight across, and it's just going to touch the left side of your neck. So it's starting from this cross grab. Starting from the cross grab, left hand is across on the right side, swings over to the left, and rotates this direction. Now if you notice, I can even kind of twist my wrist to point the nunchuck in a straight line behind my neck. So as I swing it around, if you want to twist it behind the back of your neck, it can be helpful. Here to here. Now this one, that kind of hurts, so you need to check it, but you can't, your right hand can't check like your left. Your left hand, your palm is naturally there. The way the right hand has to check is almost like you're going to palm yourself in the nose. It's an open palm staring at your face, but it's going to be right back here, which is why it's slightly more difficult, because not only can you not see it, but you have to time this catch a little bit more. So the way to practice that is almost like what I would consider to be like a pendulum or a clock, where you hold it in front of your neck like this, swing it behind and see if you can catch it, and back to front. And what you're doing with this, you're just trying to get the feel of how this chuck needs to swing and for your hand to catch it. If you can't get this catch at all, don't try. Just start off not trying so hard to catch it, but just trying to get it to land in between your fingers, between your pointer finger and your thumb. So just see if you can get it to land there. You don't have to catch it. Make sure your accuracy is there before you grab it, because obviously if it misses that, you can't get this move. There's no point in trying to grab it. So just see if it can just kind of hit your open hand. If you're consistently hitting in between there, then start working on timing that grab. You remember what I was talking about with timing? It makes all the difference. The right timing is everything. Like that. So cross, whoops, cross. Here we go again. Cross, 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 cross. Now this move, what I love so much about this move is you're really not set up for a lot of moves here, but the hand that passes, so the left hand that passes to the right, the left hand can kind of pull from behind over the top of your head, and then this becomes a back to front rip vertically. So we can push this down into a rip, and this becomes a back to front hand roll. So as we do the second one here, we reach over the top of our head, we push it down, and then we do a back to front hand roll over here, like that. So, boom, boom, rip. Now I usually do a number 3 bounce into a side catch. That's the combo that you've seen me do before is this. Back to front hand roll, number 3 bounce, redirect, catch. Boom, 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 like that. You don't have to do that. See if you can just get this move first. And then when you get that, see if you can just do a back to front hand roll. Come up with your own combo. Or do mine. I don't care. It's all good either way. Like that. Do it a couple more times. Cross. Swing across. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Let's see if there's any questions. Check in for questions. Keep practicing. Okay, no questions. That's good. All right, I'm gonna finish this off with. I got one more thing to show you, but before we finish off this lesson, I just want to say again, thank you for watching. This is the intermediate class, which is delving in advances also. Covers a lot of different topics. So what I'm showing you right now is just foundations of ideas that you could build off of after this class. So if you like the hand rolls, keep learning more hand rolls. If you like the finger rolls, there's a ton more finger rolls to learn, definitely. You know, if you like the push through throws, figure out other ways that you can push through your body to create new throws. There's all different kinds of variations. So I'm just kind of showing you ideas for different things you could grab and work with on your own to create your own style. Now the last thing I want to show is pattern-based nunchucking, which I like to call the quadrants. Now in time, I'm sure there's a real name for this, but quadrants to me is basically the ability to pull the chucks through your body instead of in front of you. When most people nunchuck, they chuck in front of them, so almost all their techniques happen here, which is fantastic. It's great, there's nothing wrong with that. But you'll find that there's a lot more variety as we start pushing through the body. And what seem some of the techniques which seem easy, like a figure 8, become a lot harder. Here's a reverse figure 8, becomes a lot harder once we start pushing these figure 8s through different quadrants of our body. Even though it's the same technique, it's the same motion, it's this movement here, but the moment that my hand starts moving across my body, it becomes something a lot more challenging and tricky, as well as it looks so great. The beautiful thing about quadrants is when you start learning them, you'll realize that you can use this as filler. So if you're performing and you're trying to think of your next big move, you can jump straight into quadrants while you're thinking, what was that move I was trying to do? Oh yeah, it was a wheel, you know, and then you can go into your wheel or whatever. So the idea is it's not terribly hard to do once you get the hang of it. It almost becomes a mindless thing that you can do to keep your flow going while you think of other moves that you want to do or add. It's a great transitory tool, I should say. But the basics of it is that you have to be able to spin across points of your body. And I've talked about the point system before, but the most important points of your body: shoulder, shoulder, armpit, armpit, waist, waist. 6 points. For nunchucks, they are probably the ones that you're going to use the most, and we could talk all day about how that works, but I just want to go over this for now. I'll give you an example of a quadrant move. So say you want to do a figure 8 cross your body, cross the left side here. There's a figure 8 cross your body, right? Now imagine that as you slash down, if you slash behind your shoulder. So now we slash behind the shoulder and in front, right? Now the way to finish this quadrant is quite simply just not slashing down so hard in the front. So as we slash behind, we're going to tighten it up and try to keep our hand by our neck. Now I chose one that's really close, but eventually what you're going to find is that you can do a figure 8 by your shoulder right here. Now this may look a little weird, but you can get into some deep stance or something to make it more presentable than standing like this. Like this obviously looks weird, you know? So get into something to really present it. But that's the whole point of this motion, is you want to go above the shoulder, below the shoulder, and do a figure 8, and by the hip and do a figure 8. And then you're going to go to the other side and you're going to do the same thing. By the hip. This one you don't have to do a whole lot, so don't worry about this one so much. That one's a little tricky. And then by the shoulder. Same side, armpit is probably the hardest and rarely used. Opposite side under the armpit, however, is used quite a bit. And once you do that, learn it with your left hand, learn it with your right hand, and then eventually you'll also get points like behind your back in the same point, but your right hand is behind you and you're going to try to move with it. We're not going to get into that right now, but I just wanted to show you those points. So when you're sitting at home and you're trying to play, see if you can start doing figure 8s by your shoulder, under your armpit, by your hip. And we can start working on, in the future videos, we can start working on connecting those together and seeing what we can come up with. There's a lot of moves that come out of the idea of just taking a figure 8 and pulling it around your body. But the core technique is there. You're just taking a figure 8 and you're pulling it around something, you know? And depending on where you pull it will depend on, like, the more places that you can create or pull it around your body, the more variety you can create by doing the same technique. Now, and I think variety is kind of the spice of life. So really take it for what it's worth. I think that the Quadrant series is an amazing tool, and we could have classes and classes about how to like move through that. It's actually one of the things I do the most when I perform is I work the quadrants very heavily because I find it to be just an amazing way to be able to do a lot of footwork really fast. All right, I'm gonna just double check here and see if there's any more questions. It's almost as if mixing Wing Chun with Chucks. Nice. Yeah, kind of is. Kind of is. Well, I hope you guys are all doing well. You know, I don't know how long COVID's going to last for. I actually read a news article and they were saying the UK was planning on like 6 months or so. I don't know if that's really the case, but from the sounds of it, we're gonna be here for a while. So I'm hoping that like by the end of this, though, we'll have some. I've been able to give some of you guys some really good tools that you can use for the rest of your lives, just to express yourself or get it out there, or to be these rock star performers. Either or, I'm here to help you. So you just let me know what I can do and how I can help, and send me a message, and that'd be fantastic. Don't forget, on Sunday we have a live stream at 5 p.m. It's an open forum, so come with questions. Ask me questions on this YouTube video, and I'll address them as well, or send me an email, ken.flowtricks@gmail.com. More than happy to answer and make sure that everyone's doing the things. So hope you enjoyed this. Again, this is more of a smorgasbord class. Once we pass the fundamentals of nunchucks and we get into intermediate to advanced, everything gets a little bit gray and shady because everyone is built differently. So what one person thinks is easy is another person thinks is hard, and vice versa for another technique. So I always thought it's best to just kind of shotgun a bunch of techniques, and you guys probably found some moves that you were not able to do, and then you probably found some that you were able to do, and I think that's the whole point. That way you can figure out where you're going to go next from there. So if you have any questions, again, give me a holler. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it.